I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Friday, August the 1st, 2014. The IDF suffered heavy casualties late last night with 5 soldiers killed in Gaza and this morning with 2 additional soldiers killed and 1 soldier feared to have been kidnapped during a suicide bomber attack in Gaza, just an hour and a half after a UN-brokered humanitarian truce went into effect. The IDF fatalities now stand at 63. The 5 IDF soldiers killed last night were killed by a rocket attack on the Israeli side of the Gaza border. This morning, terrorists came out of a tunnel shaft in the town of Rafah in the Gaza Strip and attacked IDF forces. It is believed one of the terrorists was a suicide bomber who blew himself up in the area of the soldiers, and a firefight ensued, and the 2 IDF soldiers were killed in the incident. 1 soldier is suspected to have been kidnapped. This occurred around 9:30 this morning Israel time, an hour and a half after what was supposed to be a 72-hour humanitarian truce brokered by the United Nations went into effect. It was cleared for publication that the missing soldier is 23-year-old Givati Battalion 2nd Lieutenant Hadar Golden from Kfar Saba. IDF forces are searching for him. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly spoke with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry after the apparent abduction and said that Hamas will bear the consequences for the, quote, gross violation of the ceasefire. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest calls the reported kidnapping of Golden a, quote, barbaric violation of ceasefire agreement and called on Hamas to release him. United Nations envoy in Jerusalem, Robert Sari, said if the fear proves to be true, it will be a serious violation of the humanitarian ceasefire, and we will have to condemn the act in the most severe terms. The White House had released a statement last night saying that UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and U.S. Secretary of State Kerry announced that Sari had received assurances that all parties had agreed to an unconditional humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza that would begin at 8 a.m. local time today and last 72 hours. After that time period, it was stated that Israeli and Palestinian delegations would head to Cairo for negotiations aimed at reaching a durable ceasefire. It was reported today that today's ceasefire was also broken by Hamas with rocket fire around 10 o'clock Israel time this morning. Last night, several Israelis were injured by rocket fire, 8 in the Eshkol Regional Council, 3 more in the city of Kiryat Gat. In total, 90 rockets were fired at Israel yesterday. And yesterday, the United Nations Security Council convened to discuss the conflict in Gaza. Earlier in the day, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Navi Pillay said that Israel should be investigated for possible war crimes. Pillay accused Israel of deliberately defying international law in its operation in Gaza. She also said that Hamas was in violation of international humanitarian law by firing rockets indiscriminately into Israel. And she criticized the U.S. for not doing enough to stop the conflict. At a press briefing at the UN yesterday, Israel's ambassador to the body, Ron Prosor, restated that the IDF has taken great care to try and minimize civilian casualties, while Hamas has used Palestinian civilians as human shields and uses religious and civilian structures to store and fire rockets from. Prosor said members of the international community have been quick to condemn Israel, but slow to condemn Hamas for its war crimes. Thousands gathered yesterday in Paris in the first demonstration in support of Israel since the beginning of Israel's operation in Gaza. The Jewish community's umbrella group CRIF reached out to the French Jewish community, and approximately 4,500 people turned out in front of the Israeli embassy in Paris. This comes on the backdrop of many recent anti-Israel and pro-Hamas rallies and anti-Semitic violence across France. And anti-Semitic incidents are said to be on the rise in Great Britain as well. Jewish Advisory Board, the Community Security Trust, said yesterday that there had been a significant rise in such incidents since the beginning of the year, and a higher spike since the start of Israel's operation in Gaza, with the month of July having 130 anti-Semitic incidents recorded, the second highest month on record. The Archbishop of Canterbury released a statement yesterday saying that while it is acceptable to question and even disagree with particular policies of the Israeli government, the spike in violence and abuse against Jewish communities here in the UK is simply unacceptable. Canadians showed their support for Israel this week. Several hundred Canadians, both living in Israel and many visiting Israel, took part in the Canada-Israel Solidarity Rally held at the David Citadel Hotel in Jerusalem on Wednesday. The gathering included 6 Canadian parliamentarians who were already in the country on a mission organized by the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, who also helped mobilize this week's rally, along with the Jewish National Fund and Canadian congregation Beth Tzedek. Canadian Ambassador Vivian Bercovici told the crowd gathered Wednesday, Canadians have certainly demonstrated where they stand. Canada stands with Israel. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Friday, August the 1st, 2014. Remember, live Shabbat services are coming up at 6 o'clock from New York City's Central Synagogue, followed at 7:30 by an evening of song with Jules Frankel. That's here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. I'm Teisha Bader, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom.